Imagine waking up tomorrow morning to find something unthinkable has happened overnight. The oceans, which cover 71% of our planet, have completely disappeared. Not evaporated, not frozen, just gone. This isn't just a catastrophe, it's the end of Earth as we know it. But let's explore this impossible scenario step by step, because understanding what would happen reveals just how precious our blue planet really is. Within the first hour, humanity would face immediate chaos. Coastal cities like New York, Tokyo, and Sydney would suddenly overlook vast, empty basins stretching to the horizon. Ships and harbors would crash to the seafloor, their hulls cracking like eggshells. Submarines would become metal tombs, their crews trapped miles below what used to be sea level. But here's where it gets scientifically fascinating. The sudden removal of ocean water would create an immediate atmospheric pressure drop. Without the weight of water pressing down, the Earth's crust would actually start to rise, a phenomenon called post-glacial rebound, but happening at lightning speed. Now here's the terrifying part most people don't realize. The oceans produce over 50% of the oxygen we breathe through phytoplankton, microscopic marine plants. With the oceans gone, this oxygen factory shuts down immediately. Humans and animals would start experiencing the effects within days. The remaining oxygen in our atmosphere would begin to decrease steadily. Picture this. Every breath you take becomes more precious. The air becomes thinner, not because of altitude, but because the ocean's green machines have stopped working forever. But let's pause the doom and gloom for a moment. Something incredible would also happen. For the first time in human history, we'd see the ocean floor in its entirety. Imagine walking through underwater mountain ranges taller than the Himalayas. The mid-Atlantic ridge would stretch before us like an alien landscape. We'd discover millions of shipwrecks, from ancient vessels to the Titanic, sitting exposed in the desert that was once the ocean floor. Lost cities like Atlantis, if they existed, would finally reveal their secrets. And the Mariana Trench? It would become the deepest canyon on Earth, plunging 7 miles down into darkness. Within 24 hours, Earth's weather systems would collapse completely. The oceans regulate our planet's temperature like a massive thermostat. Without this regulation, coastal areas would experience temperature swings of over 100 degrees Fahrenheit between day and night. Deserts would become even more scorching, while former ocean basins would turn into frozen wastelands after sunset. Rain would become almost non-existent. The water cycle depends on ocean evaporation. No oceans mean no clouds, no storms, and no precipitation. Earth would begin its transformation into a Mars-like desert planet. Here's where the science becomes truly sobering. Marine life represents over 80% of all life on Earth. Every whale, dolphin, fish, and coral would be gone instantly. But the effects would cascade onto land. Polar bears, penguins, and seabirds would lose their food sources. Coastal forests would wither without the moisture from ocean breezes. Even inland ecosystems would suffer. Many rivers depend on ocean tides to maintain their flow patterns. Without this connection, freshwater systems would stagnate and die. Human civilization would face its greatest challenge. 3 billion people depend on seafood as their primary protein source. That food supply would vanish overnight. Coastal cities, home to over 40% of the world's population, would become uninhabitable ghost towns. The economic collapse would make the Great Depression look like a minor recession. But humans are remarkably adaptable. Emergency teams would rush to pump water from underground aquifers. Vertical farms would expand rapidly. Scientists would work around the clock to develop artificial oxygen generation systems. So, how long would humanity have? Scientists estimate that without the ocean's oxygen production, atmospheric oxygen levels would drop by about 2% per year. We'd have roughly 20 to 30 years before breathing becomes impossible for most people. That might sound like a lot, but it's barely enough time to develop the technology needed to survive. Underground cities would become humanity's last refuge. Imagine vast caverns filled with artificial ecosystems, oxygen generators humming constantly, and hydroponic gardens growing our final crops. Ironically, this catastrophe would accelerate scientific discovery like never before. The exposed ocean floor would reveal geological secrets that took millions of years to form. We'd find new mineral deposits, understand tectonic plates better, and possibly discover forms of life that existed in the deepest ocean trenches. The pressure to survive would push technology forward by centuries in just decades. Space colonization would become humanity's top priority. Mars missions would launch monthly. The moon would become our backup planet. Of course, this scenario is scientifically impossible. The oceans can't just vanish overnight. Water doesn't simply disappear, it changes form. But exploring this impossible situation reveals something profound. Our oceans aren't just pretty to look at. They're the life support system for our entire planet. Every wave that crashes on the shore, every raindrop that falls, every breath you take right now exists because of our magnificent oceans. They're not just water. They're the reason Earth isn't a lifeless rock floating in space. This thought experiment isn't meant to terrify you. It's meant to inspire you. Right now, our oceans face real threats: pollution, acidification, and rising temperatures. But unlike our impossible scenario, these problems have solutions. Every piece of plastic we don't throw away, every carbon emission we reduce, every conservation effort we support helps protect this incredible system. The next time you see the ocean, remember, you're not just looking at water. You're looking at the beating heart of our planet, the source of life itself, the reason this beautiful blue marble we call home can support the incredible diversity of life we see today.